Someone in your life calls you when they're falling apart. You are never the one they worry about. Everyone assumes you're fine. Not because you told them you were, because you've never given them a reason to ask. If you're the one who holds everyone else together, and no one ever thinks to ask who holds you, this video is for you. And by the end of it, you're going to understand exactly why this happened, what it's quietly costing you, and how to finally start carrying a lighter, more honest version of this role. Let's start with the truth nobody says directly. Being the strong one was never actually a choice you consciously made. It was a role you were assigned, often early, often without anyone asking if you wanted it. Maybe you were the oldest sibling, expected to help raise the younger ones. Maybe you grew up in a household where a parent struggled, and you quietly became the stable one, the one who kept things from falling apart. Maybe you were simply the friend who always had it together. So everyone brought their problems to you, and rarely thought to ask about yours. Whatever the origin, the pattern became the same. You learned that your value came from your capacity to hold others up. And somewhere along the way, that capacity got mistaken by everyone around you, and eventually by yourself, for a permanent state, rather than something that also needs support, rest, and care. Let's talk about what this actually costs, because the cost is real, even when it's invisible to everyone else. The first cost: you stop believing your own struggles are valid enough to share. When you've spent years being the person everyone else leans on, a part of you starts to genuinely believe that your problems are smaller, less important, less deserving of attention than everyone else's. This isn't arrogance in reverse. It's a quiet, learned belief that your role is to hold space for others, not to take up space yourself. The second cost: you forget how to ask for help, even when you desperately need it. Asking for help requires believing, on some level, that you deserve support. But if your entire identity has been built around being the one who provides support, asking for it can feel foreign, even shameful. Like you're failing at the one thing you're supposed to be good at. The third cost: people around you stop checking on you, not out of neglect, but out of habit. This is one of the cruelest parts of this pattern. It's not that people don't care. It's that you've trained everyone around you, unintentionally, to see you as someone who doesn't need checking on. So they don't. Not because they wouldn't if they realized you needed it, but because you've never given them the information that you do. Let's talk about why this pattern is so difficult to break, even once you fully understand it. The first reason: being needed feels safer than being vulnerable. If your sense of value comes from being useful, from holding others together, then being needed provides a kind of security. As long as people need you, you have a place, a purpose, a reason to be kept close. Vulnerability, admitting you're struggling, asking for support, feels far riskier, because it requires trusting that people will still want you around, even when you're not the one holding everything together. The second reason: you've genuinely convinced yourself that you're fine, even when you're not. After years of practice, many people who carry this role become remarkably skilled at compartmentalizing their own pain, pushing it aside to focus on whoever needs them in the moment. Over time, this compartmentalizing becomes so automatic that it stops feeling like suppression. It starts feeling like simply who you are, calm, capable, unaffected, even when underneath, something is quietly wearing thin. The third reason: you're afraid that if you stop being strong, people will leave or be disappointed in who you actually are underneath the role. This fear often traces back to the original environment where this pattern formed. If being strong, capable, and low maintenance was what earned you love, attention, or safety early on, a part of you may genuinely believe that revealing weakness, needing support, or falling apart even briefly will cost you the relationships you've built your entire identity around protecting. Let's talk about something important. This role, The strong one often comes with a specific kind of loneliness that's rarely talked about. It's not the loneliness of having no one around. Often people who carry this role have plenty of people in their lives, people who love them, people who rely on them, people who would say without hesitation that they care about them deeply. The loneliness is different. It's the loneliness of never being fully known, of being loved for the role you play, the stability you provide, rather than for the full, complicated, sometimes struggling person underneath that role. This kind of loneliness is particularly painful because it's invisible, even to the person experiencing it for a long time. You can be surrounded by people who genuinely love you and still feel a quiet ache, a sense that no one actually knows what it's like inside your head because you've never given them the chance to find out. Let's talk about the specific ways this pattern shows up in daily life, because recognizing it clearly is the first step toward changing it. The first pattern, deflecting when someone asks how you're doing. Someone asks genuinely, "How are you?" And your automatic response is some version of, "I'm fine, just busy," delivered so smoothly that the other person has no reason to push further. This deflection isn't dishonest exactly. It's protective, a way of keeping the conversation moving without having to actually sit with or share whatever is genuinely happening underneath. The second pattern, minimizing your own struggles when you do share them. Even in the rare moments you do open up, there's often an automatic softening. It's not a big deal, but I shouldn't even be complaining about this, but this minimizing comes from the same deep belief that your problems don't deserve the same weight or attention as everyone else's. So you preemptively shrink them before anyone else has the chance to. The third pattern, handling crises calmly, then falling apart alone later privately. In the moment of an actual emergency, a family crisis, a friend's breakdown, an urgent problem, you become remarkably steady, capable, the person everyone turns to. It's only later, alone, often much later, that the weight of what you just held for everyone else actually catches up with you. Processed in private, rarely witnessed by anyone. The fourth pattern, feeling guilty for having needs at all. If someone asks something of you and you're too exhausted to give it, guilt often arrives instantly, disproportionate to the actual situation. This guilt isn't really about that one request. It's about a deeper, learned belief that your worth is tied to your usefulness to others, and that having needs of your own somehow threatens that worth. Let's talk about where this pattern most often originates, because understanding the root makes it far easier to work with, rather than simply trying to override it through willpower alone. For many people, this role forms in childhood, in households where a parent was struggling, emotionally unavailable, or overwhelmed, and a child, often the oldest, stepped into a caretaking role far earlier than developmentally appropriate. This isn't always dramatic or obviously traumatic. Sometimes it's subtle. A household where emotional needs weren't really discussed, where showing distress wasn't met with comfort. So a child learned quietly to manage their own feelings alone and focus outward on keeping the peace, meeting the needs of others, staying useful. This early pattern doesn't just disappear with age. It becomes the blueprint for how relationships work, carried forward into adulthood, into friendships, romantic relationships, even professional life, where the same dynamic repeats. Everyone leans on you. You rarely lean on anyone. Let's talk about what happens when this pattern goes completely unaddressed. Over years, because it's worth understanding, the real trajectory this can take if nothing changes. Slowly, quietly, resentment tends to build, even in someone who genuinely loves the people they're constantly supporting. This resentment often isn't consciously acknowledged, because acknowledging it feels like betraying the role you've built your identity around. But it accumulates anyway, showing up as exhaustion that doesn't fully make sense given your circumstances, irritability that feels disproportionate to small triggers, or a growing sense of emptiness that's hard to name. Eventually, for many people, this pattern leads to some kind of breaking point. Sometimes it's a health crisis, the body finally forcing a slowdown that the mind refused to choose voluntarily. Sometimes it's a sudden, uncharacteristic emotional collapse that shocks the people around them, precisely because it doesn't match the strong one they've always known. Sometimes it's a quieter unraveling, a growing withdrawal, a slow disconnection from relationships that, for years, only ever took from them without ever really giving back in equal measure. None of this is inevitable, but it is the common trajectory when this pattern continues entirely unaddressed, without any deliberate shift toward allowing yourself to also be supported, not just supportive. Let's talk about what actually needs to change, and why simply trying to be more open rarely works on its own, without deeper shifts underneath it. The first shift? Separate your worth from your usefulness. This is the deepest, most foundational shift required. As long as your sense of value remains tied to how much you provide for others, asking for support will always feel like a threat to your worth, rather than simply a normal human need. Beginning to believe, genuinely, that you are valuable simply for existing, not only for what you provide, is the foundation everything else depends on. The second shift. Practice sharing small struggles before attempting large ones. You don't need to start by fully unloading years of suppressed emotion onto the people in your life. Start smaller. Share a minor frustration you'd normally keep to yourself. Admit out loud that you're more tired than usual, without immediately following it with reassurance that you're still fine. Let people practice showing up for you in small ways before you ask them to show up for something bigger. The third shift. Choose one or two people to let further in, rather than trying to be equally vulnerable with everyone. Not everyone in your life needs to see the full weight you carry, but having at least one or two people who have earned genuine trust, who you allow to see you beyond the role, is essential. Isolation within a role, even a role surrounded by people, is still isolation. Real connection requires being known, not just being useful. The fourth shift. Notice and interrupt the automatic urge to minimize your struggles. The next time you catch yourself softening a real struggle, it's not a big deal, but pause. Try stating it plainly instead, without the automatic minimizing. And this has actually been really hard. Let the statement stand, without immediately shrinking it to make it easier for the other person or for yourself to sit with. The fifth shift. Allow people to disappoint you sometimes, without using it as proof that you should never rely on anyone again. One of the quiet fears underneath this pattern is that if you do open up, people will fail to show up the way you need them to, confirming that self-reliance was the only safe option all along. Sometimes people will disappoint you. That's part of being in real relationships with real, imperfect people. But one disappointing response doesn't mean vulnerability itself was a mistake. It means that particular moment or that particular person wasn't able to meet you there. Try again with someone else, rather than concluding that opening up entirely was the error. Let's talk about something important, because this entire idea can be misapplied if taken too far in the wrong direction. This is not about abandoning your strengths, your capability, or your genuine desire to support the people you love. Being capable, being someone others can rely on, is not the problem. The problem is when that capability becomes the entire foundation of your identity, when it becomes one-directional, when it comes at the total expense of your own needs ever being met in return. The goal isn't to stop being strong. It's to redefine what strength actually includes. Real strength includes the capacity to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to admit when you're struggling, not despite being strong, but as part of what genuine strength actually looks like. When it's not built on suppression and self-erasure, Let's talk about a way to think about all of this that might help you hold on to it. Imagine a well that everyone around you draws water from, constantly day after day, year after year. If that well is never refilled, only ever drawn from, eventually it runs dry, no matter how deep it once was. You are not an infinite well. You were never meant to be. The water you give to everyone around you needs to be replenished. Through rest, through genuine connection, through allowing yourself to receive care, not just provide it. A well that's allowed to refill can keep giving sustainably for a lifetime. A well that's only ever drawn from eventually has nothing left to give at all. Let's talk about how this pattern specifically shows up in romantic relationships, because it often creates a particular kind of imbalance that's worth naming directly. Many people who carry this role end up in relationships where they become the emotional anchor for their partner. The steady one, the one who manages conflict calmly, who holds space for their partner's struggles, while rarely, if ever, receiving that same depth of emotional support in return. This dynamic can persist for years, sometimes an entire relationship, without either partner fully realizing how one-sided the emotional labor has become, because the strong partner never signals that anything is missing. This isn't necessarily because the other partner doesn't care. Often, it's because they've simply never been shown that support is needed. The same pattern repeating in an intimate relationship that's been repeating in every other relationship for years. Breaking this specific pattern requires deliberately, sometimes uncomfortably, showing a partner the parts of yourself you've kept hidden, giving them the actual opportunity to show up for you, rather than assuming they either can't or won't. Let's talk about how this shows up at work or in professional settings, since it's another common arena where this exact dynamic plays out. The person who's always available, always calm under pressure, always willing to take on more, often becomes the person everyone relies on without ever checking whether they're overextended. This can look like career success from the outside, being seen as indispensable, capable, reliable. But it often comes at a real cost. Burnout that goes unnoticed because it's masked by continued high performance until it isn't anymore. Learning to set limits at work, to say this is too much right now, to allow visible struggle, without immediately compensating with extra effort to prove you're still capable, is a direct application of the same underlying shift. Your professional value does not require infinite capacity. Sustainable capability, including honest limits, is a far more valuable long-term asset than an unsustainable pace that eventually collapses. Let's talk about grief specifically, because this is often where the cost of this pattern becomes most painfully visible. People who have spent their lives holding others together often struggle enormously to grieve their own losses, because there's rarely space or permission built into their role for their own pain to be the priority. Even in genuine crisis, the instinct remains to manage everyone else's emotions first, to stay composed for the sake of others, to process their own grief later, alone, often incompletely, because there was never truly space for it, to be witnessed or supported by anyone else. This is one of the clearest, most painful illustrations of why this pattern needs to change. Grief, more than almost anything else, requires being witnessed, supported, allowed to be messy, and prioritized. A person who has never learned to receive that kind of support often grieves in isolation, carrying weight that was never meant to be carried entirely alone. Let's talk about the specific fear that often sits underneath all of this, because naming it directly makes it far easier to work with. The fear is usually some version of this. If I stop being the strong one, if I show people the parts of me that struggle, that need support, that aren't always capable and composed, they will see me differently. They might pull away. They might realize I'm not who they thought I was. Here's the more accurate truth. Even though it can be hard to fully believe at first, the people who genuinely love you are not loving an unbreakable performance of strength. They are loving you, the actual person, and most people, the ones truly worth keeping close, are capable of loving you even more deeply once they're allowed to see the full, complicated, sometimes struggling person you actually are, rather than only the composed role you've been presenting. Some relationships, built entirely around your usefulness rather than genuine connection, may not survive this shift. That is real, and it can be painful. But those relationships were likely already missing something essential, real, mutual intimacy, and their loss, while difficult, often makes space for relationships capable of holding the full truth of who you are, not just the role you've been playing. Let's talk about what to actually do with all of this, practically starting today. First, choose one person in your life, someone you trust reasonably well, and share one honest struggle with them this week. Not the deepest, hardest thing you're carrying, something smaller, as practice. Notice how it feels, and notice how they respond. Second, the next time someone asks how you're doing, resist the automatic, "Dan, I'm fine." Pause, and give a slightly more honest answer, even if it's simply, "No, actually, it's been a harder week than usual." Third, notice one area of your life, work, a friendship, a family relationship where you've been consistently overgiving without receiving equivalent support in return. You don't need to fix this immediately, just notice it honestly without judgment. Fourth, practice receiving help when it's offered instead of automatically declining it. The next time someone offers to help with something, even something small, let them, without immediately insisting you can handle it yourself. Let's talk about something important before we finish. This process of unlearning, a lifetime of being the strong one, is not quick, and it's not linear. There will be moments you slip back into old patterns, moments the guilt of having needs resurfaces strongly, moments it feels safer to simply handle everything alone again, the way you always have. This isn't failure. It's simply how deeply ingrained patterns actually change, gradually, with repeated practice, not through a single decision that permanently resolves everything overnight. Let's talk about what genuine support actually looks like. Once you start allowing more of it into your life, because it often looks different than people expect. It doesn't necessarily mean someone fixing your problems or taking away your responsibilities entirely. Often, genuine support simply means someone witnessing what you're carrying, without you having to minimize it, perform strength through it, or manage their reaction to your struggle. Sometimes it's as simple as someone saying, "That sounds really hard," and meaning it, rather than immediately jumping to solutions, or reassurance that everything will be fine. Learning to receive this kind of witnessing, without deflecting, minimizing, or rushing to reassure the other person that you're actually okay, is itself a significant, meaningful shift. It requires tolerating the discomfort of being seen in a moment of genuine struggle, rather than only in moments of composed capability. Let's talk about self-compassion specifically, because this is often the missing piece underneath everything else we've discussed. Many people who carry this role are remarkably compassionate toward everyone else, patient with other people's struggles, quick to reassure others that their feelings are valid, that they're allowed to struggle, that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. And yet, this same compassion is rarely extended inward toward themselves. Practicing self-compassion means beginning to offer yourself the same grace you so readily offer everyone else. If a friend told you they were exhausted from constantly supporting everyone around them, you would likely tell them, without hesitation, that they deserve support too, that their exhaustion is valid. that they don't need to earn rest or care through constant usefulness. Learning to say this to yourself and eventually believe it is central to genuinely shifting this pattern, not just managing it intellectually. Let's talk about a specific practice that can help build this self-compassion more concretely. At the end of each day, ask yourself honestly, what did I carry today for myself or for others that I haven't fully acknowledged? This isn't about cataloging every task you completed. It's about genuinely checking in with the emotional weight of your day, giving yourself permission to notice it, rather than immediately moving on to the next thing that needs your attention. Over time, this simple practice builds a habit of self-awareness that counters years of automatically prioritizing everyone else's needs over even noticing your own. It's a small practice, but it compounds, slowly rebuilding a relationship with yourself that includes genuine care, not just constant output. Let's talk about how this shift over time actually changes your relationships for the better, not just your own internal experience. When you begin allowing people to see more of your genuine struggles, something often happens that surprises people who've carried this role for a long time. Relationships tend to deepen, not weaken. People who only ever received your strength often respond, once given the opportunity, with genuine care, gratitude for being trusted with something real, and a desire to show up for you the way you've consistently shown up for them. This doesn't happen with everyone. Some relationships genuinely were built entirely around your usefulness, and those may not deepen in the way you'd hope. But many relationships, the ones with real substance underneath the role you've been playing, tend to grow stronger, more mutual, more genuinely intimate, once there's finally room for both people to be fully seen, rather than one person constantly holding space for the other. Let's talk about your relationship with yourself specifically, because ultimately, this is where the deepest change needs to happen. For years, your sense of identity has likely been built around being capable, being the strong one, being the person others rely on. Beginning to include vulnerability, need, and genuine rest as part of that identity, rather than as failures of it, requires a real redefinition of who you understand yourself to be. This redefinition isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming a more complete version of the person you already are. One that includes both strength and softness, both capability and genuine need, both the ability to hold others and the willingness to be held in return. Let's talk about a final, important reframe worth carrying forward from everything we've discussed. Being the strong one was never actually about being invulnerable. Real strength was never the absence of struggle, need, or vulnerability. It was, and still is, the capacity to keep showing up, even while struggling, even while needing support, even while imperfect and human. You have always had this strength. What you're learning now is that strength was never meant to be carried entirely alone. Let me leave you with this. If you are the one everyone leans on, the one who holds things together, the one no one thinks to check on because you've never given them a reason to, I want you to hear something clearly. You are allowed to struggle too. You are allowed to need support without having earned it first through constant usefulness. You are allowed to fall apart sometimes and still be exactly as strong as you've always been, because real strength was never about never breaking. It was about continuing to show up imperfectly, honestly human. The people who genuinely love you do not need you to be endlessly capable to keep loving you. They need the chance to actually know you fully, including the parts you've spent years protecting them from seeing. Give them that chance. Give yourself that chance. You do not have to carry everything alone forever, simply because you've always been capable of it. Capability was never supposed to be a life sentence. It was supposed to be one part of who you are, not the entire exhausting weight of your entire identity. You are allowed to be held too, not just the one who holds everyone else. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. So many people carry this exact weight quietly, believing incorrectly that they're the only one strong enough to have to carry it entirely alone. If you're new here, this channel is called Withinism. We talk about things like this every week, the weight nobody names and the honest, gentle work of finally setting some of it down. If this video helped you, subscribe. Not for me, for the version of you that's still learning. It's allowed to need support too. And if someone comes to mind right now, someone who's always been the strong one for everyone else, send this to them. Sometimes the most caring thing you can do for the person who always takes care of everyone is remind them that they deserve care too. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.